Charlie Parker will get you the gig, but Dave Sanborn will keep you the gig.
I don't think that person really gigs anymore.
When I play with somebody like Benny Benak, it's like just jokes, laughs.
He didn't know horn lines, he didn't know song. After a while, we just stopped calling him.
If you're a real you have to like play so well.
Just have everything for everybody to make it easier for them.
The #1 role is...
This is the drum room.
Drum room.
Where the sausage gets made. And then I'll start with 3 things you should always do, no matter the gig. Always be on time. Especially nowadays, I feel like gigs are like a little bit harder to come by, maybe as the world kind of gets going again. I feel like there's just like no excuse to really be late. And of course stuff happens. Your car, your significant other, a child, traffic, or whatever, like stuff happens. Obviously some instruments have to be more on time than others. Like being a drummer, sometimes I envy like a horn player that can just kind of just show up, kind of get the horn together, blow through it, make sure we're ready to go. For me, like if a gig starts at 5, I'm leaving my house probably like 2:45. Even if it's just over here, and I don't have to go so far away. And plus too, I feel like if you're getting hired, that person always will like feel better and rest more assured. Nothing is worse than it's like the gig starts at 5, it's 4:59, and someone's like, "Hey man, parking." And it's like, okay, I get it. But also, it's like, dude, someone's paying you money to play your instrument with other people that play instruments? Come on, I mean, I'll take a whole week and get ready. I would say be authentic for what the gig is. Like in drum lingo, if you're like a drummer playing like a brushes, like maybe standards gig, maybe not the best idea to pull out all your John Bonham fills or all your Lars Ulrich or, you know, whomever. Like, be authentic. That'll go so much further than like your sweet licks. It's like the thing of being hireable, where it's like, oh, this person can play room versus like some people are better for some gigs than others, just based on not even like chops or technique or anything, but just based on the ability to play wherever you are.
And also like that doesn't, in my experience, like that doesn't impress the people they think they're impressing.
Like
anyone that's in the room that like they think they're impressing, like just rolling your eyes. Like there's a time and place for it, but it's read the room.
Reading the room is like paramount. Like I would just say like enjoy it. And that doesn't mean like maybe drink 40 whiskeys, like enjoy it. I feel like music, not to sound corny, is like such a bigger thing than us. So it's like, it's kind of foolish, I think, to not enjoy it. I know I'm definitely a person, like if I'm going to like a gig, I'm thinking like, man, all right, I gotta make sure I do this, 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 and this. I want to sound good. I want people to enjoy me. But then it's like, well, Ross, like, you should enjoy it too. It's like we're playing music. Like it's. I always go, Ross, it's drums. You know what I mean? Like it's drums. Like Jeff Bush would always say to us, he would always be like, it's not battle jazz. It's like the team. Like that was my third thing. The team effort. I knew I would get to it. The team effort. It's like be a part of the team. I would rather have, if I'm playing with like a quartet, the other 3 people, like us sound good as a unit versus me being like, man, I don't know what this is, but the drummer was out of this world. To me, that's a loss. That's a lose. I would rather someone say like that group sounded good together. That to me is like, that's the tip of the iceberg. That's better than any lick, any fill, any solo. Should I tell a story?
Do you have one?
Okay. I did a gig once where it was sort of like a similar, like everyone's classic gig nightmare story where someone maybe drank a little too much, or it was a horn player that is not around anymore, but this person, it was like a funk gig. And it was rhythm section, a singer, and horn players. The horn players were literally, same thing, it's not Coltrane, it's not Ornette, we're playing like hits, bop, bop. And then that's kind of all it was. Horn player, one, had too much to drink, which you should never do on a gig. Even if you're playing like at a beer garden, like you still shouldn't have too much to drink. Horn player wasn't authentic for the gig, drank too much, and then I always say being the hero, trying to go for it and play like all these like sheets of sound and things, it just didn't fit. It would be like if you put like a wet sock like on a dry foot. It just it was just like terrible. And then of course that person after the gig was over had the insecure mind of, dude, that was like such a great gig. And the guitar player, who doesn't play any of that, said to him, he was like, dude, literally you play a single lined instrument, you didn't do any of it on this. He was like, I recorded the whole thing. And then of course the saxophone player was like, you recorded me? And it was like, well, dude, you weren't gonna understand what I was about to tell you unless you heard it. Whoa. So, and then he hit play on his phone and you heard like, you know, outstanding, don't you drop me out? And then you heard like, and it was just like, come on. There's an old saying, a blind man on a fast horse would be able to know that that was not what it was supposed to be. Not because of that instance, but I don't think that person really gigs anymore. They were definitely fit to play a gig, but I think you have to have this sense of self where you're like, okay, it's this, so I'm gonna kind of use this, like kind of what Anton said, I'm gonna use like kind of this language, this authenticity to kind of do it. Like really, like I was like, damn, I really gotta like, I don't want to be that guy. Yeah, I would say yeah, those should be on time, be authentic, and enjoy it.
Yeah, perfect. Dude, thank you.
Yeah, dude, of course.
I love it.
So is it cool if I just ramble on a bit and then you can just cut as you need?
That's exactly.
I don't know if you've met me, but concise answers are really my thing. How to not get fired, right?
Yeah.
And how to get hired back, maybe.
Yeah.
That's a better way to say it.
No, yeah. But...
Paying attention to the guys who are on the gig, who have done the gig, who have maybe been there before. If it's a situation where you're subbing in a group, if you kind of roll in there and you're like, oh no, I just do it like this way, I just do my thing. That's like a recipe for disaster sometimes. If you're in a horn section, the other horn guys go to whatever, they're probably not going to lead you astray with what they're doing. Obviously, like substance intake on the gig, that probably goes without saying, but especially if you're the new guy on the gig or you're subbing, like everyone's tolerance is different. Maybe you don't want to have any, maybe you want to just have a little bit, but like definitely hedge on the side of safety. There's no reason to lie as a professional musician. Like, if you can't make the hit, say you can't make it. I think we all know somebody who's told I got a flat tire on the way to the gig story. Like, it's just way better if you're just like, yeah, I left later than I meant to, I'm sorry.
What is good, like, etiquette for, like, turning down a gig? At my stage, I'm just like, say yes to every gig, right?
Yeah.
But, like, eventually you have to be like, I can't drive to Cleveland to make $20, you know, and play 6 hours with a band that really sucks.
Yeah, I'm bad at that. But I've gotten better. There's the rule of three thing too. Do you know the rule of three? Good money, good people, good music.
I heard it as the gig triangle. That's what
yeah. I always called it the rule of three, but yeah. You have to have two of the three, right? You have to do two corners. Like if it's good people and it's good money, but the music's kind of sad, it's like, okay, at least I'm hanging out with cool people and making decent bread. Yeah. Or maybe for some people they get to the point in their career they need all three. And that's cool too. But I think when you're young, coming up, like any one of those three can be cool too. Yeah. The most important thing to do is always respond. Yeah. I think that's a big one that I see some people like not like, oh no, I just didn't. It's like, no, don't do that. Maybe they got your name just from somebody and whatever, but maybe they, you know, maybe that person was like, oh man, it'd be really great if Evan could be on that hit. Yeah. You know, and if you don't reply to them, you don't seem like a genuine person, and that may, and not that it's about always pretending your reputation. It is about that, but I think it's probably more about just being a decent human, being a positive force in this music community. Second of all, there's nothing wrong with just saying like, hey man, I don't think I can swing that. You know, it's okay to say I can't swing that for that kind of money, or like, I asked Brady, I think it was for a big band gig, and it was that week balcony big band. It pays you in your soul of getting to play those charts. He's got a bunch of kids now, and he just leveled with me. He's like, hey man, for me to leave the house on a weeknight for that money, because it's far for him too. Yeah. I was like, he's like, I just can't swing that as a dad. Yeah, like as a family, that's just not, and he was just super honest about it. Yeah. And I was like, dude, no worries. Yeah. Especially when somebody is that honest about it, it's like, oh cool man, I don't take it personally at all. You know, that kind of honesty, just be like, hey man, I don't think I can really swing that, but thank you for asking. And that's the other thing, and like, you can bleep this out if you want, because the #1 rule is don't be right?
And that's all Eric told me in high school.
There's a lot of people who play well. There's a lot of people who are not. There's a Venn diagram that needs to be in the middle, right? Like you want to be in the Venn diagram, right? Don't be a don't be use insert whatever word you want. Yeah. Show up, be courteous, be grateful, be early, play your butt off. Another piece of like gig etiquette is like when someone compliments you, just be genuine and say thank you. You don't have to elaborate. Oh my gosh, why? Well, just be like, hey man, thanks. That means a lot. Yeah. That's enough. You don't have to be like, yeah, no. See, it's not that. I had a professor in college, Dave Morgan, came up to me one time. I'm sure my playing was still sad. Yeah. But whatever improvement I had made from the first time I played it, he was happy and, you know, was like, dude, I want to tell you, you worked hard, I recognize that. Whatever the situation was. And I just remember kind of got in this habit of like just brushing it off and be like, oh no man, like I cuffed this, I wasn't, you know, I was just like, I wasn't killing whatever. I just remember Dave like, was on my shoulder, like, hey Joe, just say, thanks Dave, that means a lot coming from you. And I know a lot of people, young musicians, that took me a long time to get comfortable with for some reason. One of the most impressive things as a horn section player, when somebody comes in and sits in, their ears are as good as their reading. To me, I think that's it. I'll give you a couple for instances in this exact scenario. So, had a trombone player reading the lowest horn part in a band where the book used to be a trombone book, now it's a Barry book. But the sub on the gig was a trombone player. When you play together for a long time, you drift from the page. right? Like the page might say it's a half note off on 3, right?
Yeah.
But like you might start going off on the end over years and years playing the maybe whatever. The first time when they like nail it the way it's written, and then the second time they play it the way that you played it the first time, you're just like, oh yes, that. But then like the other side of that is there was a tune where the Barry or trombone in this case was supposed to start the tune, but like the gig was moving kind of quick. You know, whatever the tune got to our side of the stage, maybe like a little late, or we couldn't flip the book fast enough. And there's a line like right at the beginning of it, and the trumpet player looks at me and is like, "Hey man, play the line." And it's like that's not in my part. Yeah. But I have to be like, boom, and play it. So it's two ways. Play great releases. Like as a horn player, everyone plays the notes right. Pay attention to the releases. There are a billion different kinds of staccatos. Yeah. Listen to whoever the lead. If you're the lead player, be consistent. Yeah. Play it one way so the rest of us can follow. If you're not the lead player, just follow that person. Yeah. If you disagree with it, too bad. Exactly. Yeah. Right? When you hire your own band, get a different lead player. Yeah. Right? Because like ultimately, what are you proving? Either that you're too stubborn to play it the way that will make it right in the moment, or you didn't hear it. Exactly. Either way, when there's an opportunity to blow, like go. Playing appropriately, but still confidently. Like there's that Goldilocks zone, right? Where like, here's too timid, here's like, burn the house down, inappropriate for the gig. Yeah. And you gotta live here where it's like, no, I'm cool, I'm confident, but like, and as saxophone players, especially on pop gigs, it can be a hard line to walk, right? You have to play the gig. And I just remember Greg Lutz, who was one of my teachers too, once told me, Charlie Parker will get you the gig, but Dave Sanborn will keep you the gig. Whoa. If you go on a pop gig, you sound like a quote unquote jazz player. It's not a great look. Vice versa though too, like, you know, music's music, like anything's valid, especially when it comes to improvisation, in a space where it's appropriate. Oftentimes improvising musicians, we view tunes as vehicles for improvisational expression. That's not how other people consume music. You have to be aware of that dynamic. And I think that like as a young musician, we think we're gonna like impress the other people we're playing with. It's like, no, they need to know I can play Coltrane changes over like Mustang Sally. They didn't know that I'm that cool. Roll the tape. Yeah, I mean like, I'm pretty sure you could go back and find young me at some dumb bar gig in college. Probably giving that a try. This was a band that I played with at one point. We were playing at I don't know if it was a country club. It was somewhere that had a kitchen that was providing us, the band, a meal. And it was a nice like sit down, there was a room, they brought the food out. And like it was in the, you know, the lids. And it was like chicken, rice, and probably some kind of veggie. But it was good, it was hot, it was like, it smelled good. I was like, oh, I'll never ever forget, like, people who were serving it, who were bringing it in, and guys were opening it as they got it. And one guy was like, put his knife in, he's like, yep, doorstop chicken. And I was like, ooh, I think I know what that means. And then very loudly it was like, hey Joe, you know what doorstop chicken is? It's chicken that's so hard and rubbery you could stop a door with it. And like the people bringing the food were like still there. Ugh. I get it, we've all been on like a lot of gigs. That moment I was just like, no, absolutely not. Like, no. Like, and as far as I know, that band's never, like, I don't think that band's even worked in the area.
You know what audience we're trying to get? Jazz. Red Bull gives you swing. To me, it all comes down to, like, showing up prepared is like the baseline of everything. And then, you know, what everyone says all the time is like, don't be, you know, that's super important. It's all stuff that's like not really related to music necessarily. It's like, are you prepared? Are you showing up on time? Are you, you know, fun or at least tolerable to be around? That's great. And then, you know, the upper level is like, make sure you're playing the right material for the gig. So like there's like a musical language attached to jazz and like different types of jazz, and then there's like in a wedding band situation probably shouldn't be playing bebop lines over like Superstition or something. And then I have a story. There was a saxophone player that I worked with a long time ago who will remain nameless. Really amazing at the saxophone, just technically, like chops wise. However, he very frequently did not learn any of the music. He didn't know horn lines, he didn't know songs. Whenever he would solo, he would just like take it to the stratosphere and just play as many notes as possible. And sometimes it was impressive, but most of the time it was just annoying. I'd rather have a prepared musician who is maybe not as good at their instrument on the gig than someone who's amazing at their instrument who puts no effort into it, or just like plays the wrong stuff on purpose. So after a while, we just stopped calling him, and yeah, I don't know if that works.
That's perfect. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I would start the conversation by asking, why do you want good gig etiquette?
Well, let's say either you want to get hired more or you don't want to be fired.
So you don't want to be fired, you want to be hired more.
Yeah.
So it's a business decision, right? The music industry is kind of weird because in a normal 9-to-5 business, you might have, you know, markers, like really clear markers that define whether you're doing well or if, you know, you're fitting in or whatever.
Yeah.
But with music, it's kind of like a lot about like who do you get along with and the relationships that you develop while you're on a gig.
Yeah.
So when you're playing, you're kind of demonstrating your ability, right? But you're not necessarily developing relationships. The relationships come when you are hanging out. A lot of success or a lot of good gig etiquette is really just being as genuine as you possibly can. When we listen to like really great musicians, like people that we really like, you can kind of hear or feel like if they're being genuine in what they're playing, especially in jazz music. If they're improvising and you're like, you know, they're engaged, you know that they're locked in with whatever song they're playing. You can kind of like feel that almost. And the same thing kind of goes for like when you're talking to somebody, when you're just like interacting with someone, you want to be as genuine as possible. We pick up on that really easily.
Yeah, and not just like phoning it in the whole time.
Not just phoning it in, because you can show up to a gig and be really nice, and someone might leave the interaction you had with them and be like, well, that felt like a little forced. Or that felt like kind of, he was a nice guy, but that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And also like self-awareness in that situation too. Like, you know, like having self-awareness in whatever the group is. So like tonight was a big band.
Yeah.
There's guys who've been in this band for 15, 20 years, long time. And then there's younger guys sitting in, whatever. Like understanding that dynamic of like, you're coming in, you're the new guy, like I'm gonna listen to this guy's story, or I'm gonna talk to him, or I'm gonna ask him his experience on this. Like we were talking about YouTube earlier. Like,
exactly.
Hey, what's your experience with that? All of that kind of stuff builds relationships, and then it also is a memory that other person will have. A lot of time what happens is like the older person will get a call, they'll go through their roster of people that they know are really reliable, and maybe all of them are unavailable. But he had a really good interaction on a gig with a younger guy that he remembers, and he goes, you know what? I'm gonna give that guy a call. At least in my experience, that's kind of how it all goes together. So if the ultimate purpose is a good interaction that leads to more business, because that's what we're doing as professional musicians, I think the best thing you can do is be as genuine as possible, show up prepared, be self-aware of what you're doing, what your role is, showing up on time, wearing the right clothes, listening, asking questions, kind of all that kind of stuff. But I think self-awareness is a really big one. Understanding what you're walking into, because you kind of have to be a little crazy to do what we're doing. And genuine connections, it's really important. Like a real genuine connection with someone on a gig is like, oh, you get it. Like we connect because you get it, I get it, you're going through this, I'm going through that. Like, you know, because it's not easy. Like what we're doing is is hard. Like what's the saying there, like the internet meme of something about like I practice like 10,000 hours, have a screwing it up.
I'll put it on screen. I'll put the meme on.
Put the meme on there. I'm forgetting it, but it's a meme about somebody practicing super long to get paid $50. But you know, I don't know.
No, so like you do all those things. You're prepared. You show up on time. You dress well, but then you're the whole time. People are just not going to call you.
People will not call you.
Yeah.
You have to play so well.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to counteract. Like if you're a real.
Yeah. you have to.
You have to like play so well.
Whoa.
That it like will counteract it. I could go on, but I think that's probably good.
That's great, man. Yeah, dude, thank you. I appreciate it.
If you're leading a gig and you're playing like your original tunes, or if you're playing arrangements or tunes that are very non-standard, it's pretty important, I think, that you bring charts, that the charts are clear and easy to read, and that you bring copies for everybody. Even if people tell you that they're going to bring copies, maybe they forget, or a printer issue or something. So just have everything for everybody to make it easier for them, so they don't have to do that much work.
Yeah.
This is the George Heid special though. If you see me without a vest,
That's fast.
something I gotta be myself. Yeah, music related things, being prepared musically as much as you possibly can, whether that's checking out as much music beforehand, if it's a gig that requires some reading, or some previously unrehearsed material, try to do as much of that before you get to either the rehearsal or the gig.
Don't skip over the chart in the email and only listen to the recording.
Yes, I'm guilty of that too. Just musically being prepared is gonna go a long way. If there is music to print, don't assume the leader is gonna have it there for you. Print it yourself, and worst case scenario, you just recycle it later.
Yeah.
You know, that's simple enough. Have reliable gear. If you're a drummer, have more than one pair of sticks.
Yeah.
Or one pair of brushes if something happens where you break a stick. Simple things like that. Listen intently to the musicians you're performing with. Rather than playing something flashy or something cool, it's way hipper to leave some space and listen to what everyone else is doing. And on that same kind of thought, you know, play it at an appropriate volume, not only based on the room, the size of the room, what the audience is expecting, whether it's kind of a more subdued audience where you kind of gotta coax them as if they were a bunch of cats, or if they're like a puppy dog audience where no matter what, they want some energy from you. Those are things that can make or break a gig, you know, if you're too shy on a gig or you're not playing to your audience. And then also just based on the other players. If you're a bass player that's like, I'm dogging on the bass players, but if you're a bass player that's like playing so loud that my snares are vibrating and we're trying to play a ballad, maybe my snares would be off when I'm playing brushes anyways and they're still vibrating.
Yeah.
It's like too loud. That's just some basic gig etiquette there for music related items. Moving into non-music related items, this one would be specific to the leader, which these days I find myself more in that position than the latter. Be fair, and I'm speaking, you know, monetarily. If it's a gig that's a local gig and everyone in town knows what the gig pays, whether they've been a leader on that gig or not. If the gig pays, you know, $450 for a trio, pay everyone $150. Take $150 for yourself, don't take a leader fee. Now, if you get me a gig in Finland and you gotta put together all this extra work, you're emailing some correspondence and setting up a whole itinerary, yeah, you should make some extra money for your time. But if it's a gig down the street at the cigar shop and you're showing up with your sax, I gotta lug a drum set and a sound system, you're like, yeah man, gig's 4 hours, pays a bill, and then you're going home with like $250 because you're skimming off the top of everyone. Yeah. Just feel like it's bad karma. It's gonna come back to bite you. The rest of these are for leader and for sidemen. Definitely try to bring a great attitude. Whether you're in a good mood, a bad mood, leave all of that stuff off of the bandstand. That positive energy is so infectious. Be on time. Better to be early, sit around, get a cup of coffee. Walking in like at the downbeat, it's stressful for everybody. Yeah. People asking me questions like, man, when's he gonna get here? Like, I think he's parking. You know, it's just it just makes everybody feel stressed. Whether you're the band leader trying to cover for one of your sidemen or you're somebody that's booked the event. This is the last bit. This is one I have to do a lot. I would imagine we all do this. Is musicians, we're all crazy, and it's just to control your crazy. Keep it light. It definitely reflects more poorly on you than anyone you're talking badly about in the scene. I remind myself of this all the time. It's really easy to just start talking about some other musician. Yeah, I think that would also tie into the positivity versus negativity thing, but just talking too much trash is not a good thing. And when you talk trash about a lot of people, I think the person you're talking the trash to might also wonder, like, what does this guy say about me when I'm the one that's not there? Yeah. You know, so yeah, just keeping the gig atmosphere light and jokey. You know, when I play with somebody like Benny Benak, it's like just jokes, laughs. It's like, there's no need to dive into darkness. We're talking about Mario Kart. I mean, we talk about anything. There's no need to go down that path. Aside from being as talented as he is, one of the reasons he's just popular and people like to work with him, because it's just fun. It's like you're just hanging out with a comedian the whole time. So just keeping it light. Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, man.
I thought I would just throw in one quick gig etiquette tip that I recently learned that hasn't been mentioned yet, and that is, however someone contacts you for a gig, respond to them via that same line of communication. Let me explain. Last week I got a call from a drummer in town, and he left me a voicemail, told me his name and all the information about the gig that he wanted to potentially hire me for. Based on his voicemail, it sounded like he was kind of an old school guy, so I just decided to call him back. gig. We talked for a few minutes, worked out all the details about the gig and stuff, and at the end of the conversation he said, "I really appreciate you calling me back instead of texting me." And then he went on to explain that a lot of young guys that he normally talks to, you know, will get a phone call and then just text him, and it takes him forever to go back and forth and type. So he really appreciated the fact that I just called him back. I know a lot of people from my generation and younger are much more likely to just, you know, text someone even if they get a missed call. But I think good etiquette is like responding with whatever means of communication they reached out to you with, if that makes sense. Not only did it seem to make a good impression on this guy, but I got hired for the gig, I have it in my calendar now, and I get a feel for who he is as a band leader, and he gets a feel for who I am as a sideman. Something as small as that made a big difference in how I left feeling the conversation, and I'm sure how he left. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there because that was something I literally just learned while I was in the process of filming all these people. Let me know if you like these types of videos, and if you have any like specific questions about working musicians or the working musician lifestyle or how gigs work, things like that. I'm not the most experienced musician, which is why I'm really grateful to know all of these awesome working musicians around me that are willing to give me their time and share some tips and stories. I've been enjoying making these videos, so I hope you guys have been enjoying watching them. Also, all of the musicians in this video are linked in the description. Make sure you go check them out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.